I'm gonna need you to take that pie and put it inside of a guy. What's good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, surprisingly, we did recently receive a bit more news in regards to Pokemon Legends ZA very recently. In this most recent surprise Nintendo Direct, we did get a gameplay trailer for Legends ZA, giving us the premise of how we're going to be progressing in this game. The general idea is that we're going to be participating in a citywide tournament referred to as the ZA Royale, a free-for-all nightly tournament in which you are trying to rank up from letter Z to letter A. I personally am very excited for this tournament style aspect. It's going to have us battling trainers left and right, and it's going to be very intense, and it's going to be a good time overall, to my personal belief. Now, as of right now, even with this second gameplay trailer, we don't have a lot of information, especially regarding the story, which means that we don't truly know who's running the tournament, why they're running the tournament, and what happens when we win said tournament. Supposedly, the winner gets their wish granted, but I ain't seen Jirachi yet, so what the hell does that mean? Now, as much as we could probably speculate about that, there's something else that I want to talk about in particular today. I was thinking about this whole tournament situation, and if we were to reach rank A and probably, complete the story, what happens after that? Because once you reach rank A, why would there be any more of a need for you to participate in the tournament, right? Which led me to my current question. What is this post-game going to look like? Now, don't get me wrong, there is for sure 100% going to be post-game. We've always had post-game. It's just kind of hard for me to imagine that because of the circumstances that we do know of currently. Yeah, sure, we're gonna be completing and filling out the Pokédex like we always do, but there's always at least something else to do, so what is that gonna be? What is that gonna look like? Well, that is precisely what we're here to discuss today, so you already know the drill. Why don't you go ahead, get cozy, grab yourself a Fanta of some sort, and may I recommend a snack, because I won't take up too much of your time. Maybe a bowl of ice cream and dump a little soy sauce on there, while we talk about what the possibilities of this post-game is going to look like in Pokemon Legends ZA. Firstly, I want to talk about two specific concerns that's probably going to directly affect what kind of post-game this game has. Firstly, we don't even know what kind of online features we're gonna have, if any. Of course though, I could be completely wrong in assuming that we're not gonna have any online features, but I feel like it's a very valid assumption based on the little bit that we do know. This game is an action RPG, not a turn-based RPG, which means that battling online would have to work very differently from what we're used to. But it's at a weird in-between, where it still actively works as an RPG, but it's not working like an arena fighter RPG or something weird like that. What I'm trying to say here is that because of this very new system and mechanic that we're going to be working with in this game, it would take a lot of time and a lot of effort to balance a lot of what's going on here for proper online play. Something that I don't think Game Freak would do or even have enough time to do, especially for a one-off title like Legends ZA. Pokemon Legends is for sure going to be its own series from now on, no doubt in my mind about that. However, because both of the titles in this new series have gone out of their way to try very new things that the series hasn't done before, they don't really have a lot of extra time to go out of their way to balance all of those new mechanics for proper and balanced and fun online play. So it's a bit of a sacrifice here. We get a new way to play, a very fun way to play, but we're not playing online with our friends unless we're doing something very particular in which we're not battling against them, because I simply cannot really see this working in an online setting. Again, I truly do hope that I'm wrong about that, because I think it would be fun to play with this style in an online setting, regardless of if it's balanced or not, but I don't think that they would put that out like that. I'm just saying, if we didn't even get online capabilities for Pokemon Legends Arceus, which was still turn-based, there's no way in hell they're doing it for this. Or at the very least, it probably won't be anything major. Like, we'll probably still be able to trade with our friends and things along those lines, but we're likely not getting online battles. I just don't see it. I do hope I'm wrong though. And then the next thing after that is the fact that we're likely not getting any form of raid battles. I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to the concepts of raid battles coming to the mainline series since Generation 8 and on, but if we're being completely honest and realistic with ourselves here, it gave us a lot to do. It gave us a way to grind, it gave us a way to capture strong Pokemon, and it gave us endless amounts of content that the developers could update at any time to give us events and stuff like that. We are still getting events for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to this day. However, given the gimmick that we're working with and the region that we're in, there is absolutely no reason for raid battles to be a thing here. Which means that if we get any form of events after this game has been released, we don't know what that's gonna look like. And that has me a little bit nervous, I can't lie, because I truly do hope that they treat this game with a lot more care than they ever did Pokemon Legends Arceus. So, with those little tidbits up in the air, I think aloud. What are we gonna do when it comes to the postgame? Well, I've had a couple of thoughts, a couple realistic and a couple unrealistic ideas that I'd like to pitch aloud to see what you guys think about it. For one thing, I have to imagine there's no way that they don't bring back Breakouts again. Both Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet introduced a mechanic called Breakouts where a bunch of the same Pokemon species would bust out in one area and spawn in that area for a certain amount of time. This was probably one of the best ways that we could get any real shiny hunting done in either of these games. And if they're any form of smart, I have to imagine that they're gonna bank in on that because shiny hunting is an endless amount of content because of how long it takes to do. But a lot of people find that really fun. I find it fun for a certain amount of time before I eventually move on to something else, but it's something to do. This is the one thing that I'm very certain is gonna return to this game. Like, no doubt in my mind, we move forward in most Pokemon games probably without that mechanic. So that one just seems logical. What else could we get? Well, nothing would be a better roundabout than for us to end up working with Looker again. Now, it's been a very long time since I've played Pokemon X and Y, and I would definitely like to do so again too. But if you remember correctly, there was a post-game situation with a lot of extra content in which you were helping Looker solve some of his cases. I'm just saying, man, we're gonna be going in a lot more buildings, possibly even underground into some catacombs, maybe even to a sewer system. I say it's about time we revisit this idea and utilize that for even more mysteries around Lumio City. Frankly, I just think that it would be a perfect throwback to every and all fans of Pokemon X and Y that enjoyed that game and enjoyed their time with the Looker missions. Although I do remember not liking them as much, but I think that was just because it wasn't what I was hoping it would be. I don't remember what the situation was there, but regardless, I think we have a chance to do them bigger and better and grander this time around. So I would really love to see something like that happen. I would love a scenario in which Looker gets word of what's happening in Lumio City, and maybe he looks more into it and finds out that there's like a third party pulling even more strings than we realized in the main campaign. So he's helping us search those people down. Maybe we're looking for Team Flare remnants or something along those lines. I don't know, I just feel like it would be fun to have a nice little side story that's not involved with the ZA tournament whatsoever. I feel like doing something outside of that range could be really, really fun. Now here's where we kind of dip into unrealistic territory, because these are just things that I would definitely like to see in post-game, but I'm not banking on it by any means. For starters, I would love to see a completely separate either storyline or challenge that leads us to finally battling with Callum and Serena, the old champions of the Kalos region. We don't really get an opportunity like this one often, where we're revisiting a region years later after the character that we played as originally has long and well been champion. In 2nd gen, they gave us the opportunity to re-explore Kanto a year or so after Team Rocket did their thing, and even gave us the chance to collect all of those gym badges and battle Red of all people. We have been yearning for even a glimpse of something with this energy in Pokemon again. And Legend ZA is one of the few and very rare opportunities where we could do something like this again. I imagine the only reason that they didn't do this in Black 2 and White 2 is because the champions canonically went missing in Black and White, but I still think that's stupid because we should have been able to find them and battle them in Black 2 and White 2. But regardless, we are finally, after ages, in another situation in which we're revisiting a region years after the original main event. In pretty much any media or fiction that has some form of a sequel or like a spin-off, one of the most exciting prospects of that sequel or spin-off is getting to see what the characters that we haven't seen in a long time have been up to since the original storyline has finished. Going back to Twilight Town after a decade in the Kingdom Hearts series. Hell, getting a call from Cole McGrath's best friend Zeke in the Infamous series. And hell, we would see it with Pokemon all the time. Seeing Red and Blue after decades in Pokemon Sun and Moon was absolutely insane. So, with that being said, I feel like the best roundabout situation to really pay homage to Pokemon X and Y would be to have a post-game situation that allows us to see what the champions are up to. Hell, what any of the old gang is up to. What are their names? Tierno, the other guys that were with us, the other rivals. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Even though I wasn't necessarily attached to that gang or anything like that, I would still just love to see what everyone is up to, how they're doing, and, you know, see how their teams have come along, you know, after all these years. Maybe they're a lot stronger. Maybe they're a threat to behold now. I'd love to see that in action. And a champion battle against Callum or Serena, or maybe even whoever's the current champion of Kalos, I think would go stupid hard, especially with these mechanics. Shoot, maybe that could be my wish once I've taken over the ZA Royale. Maybe I want to fight the strongest there is, and I feel like that's my right after proving myself to be the strongest trainer in Lumiose. I don't know, man, I'm just saying, it tracks to me. Now, the last idea that I had that I think would be really fun for this very specific game with these specific mechanics would be some form of survival mode. Imagine a battle tower situation, but instead of like going trainer to trainer individually and things like that, you actively have to continue battling for as long as you can and setting as massive of a record as you possibly can. No healing up, no break times, anything like that. You're just running. You're going through this tower and you are completely running it. I would love to see a situation like that because I feel like for this specific game, it could work wonders for an endless amount of content for post-game. It could also give a really good incentive to continue building teams and completing the Pokédex. I feel like that sounds fun, right? Like every couple of months after you've beaten Legend ZA, maybe once or twice a week you'll pop in and be like, oh yeah, I'm down to run a survival run. Let's see how far I can get this time. Maybe I get motivated to make a new team and so on and so forth. I feel like that sounds fun as a mechanic. Maybe you don't agree, but something like that to me personally, I feel could add endless content that gives you a bigger bang for your buck. Especially for playing a $70, this game better not be $70. I'm gonna lose my mind. But with that being said, do you see the vision? Do you see my dilemma and why I've entered this train of thought? Usually after you've beaten the main story of a Pokemon game, you end up usually just kind of roaming around, completing the Pokédex, hunting down shinies and things along those lines. And in more recent years, it's going to be a lot of raid battles and online battling, and maybe a couple of extra quests here and there to really help fill out the world and more characters and things like that. I just feel like in this particular instance, they have the opportunity to get really creative and really harp on the nostalgia factor by giving us access to meeting all of these characters from Kalos past. Sycamore, Callum, Serena, any of the old group, maybe even some old gym leaders that we haven't seen in a long time. Giving us looker missions, having a situation where we could hunt down Team Flare remnants, and possibly even having some form of survival mode that makes this game feel like it could be endless and you could just get so much more out of it. And maybe, you know, if we want to get crazy, maybe add an online ranking system, right? Not a ranking system per se, but like you can put your records in so that you can compare them to other people online, kind of like in Sonic X Shadow Generations, where you can put your stats and records up and compare them to other people online to see how fast they beat stages. Maybe we could have something like that, and it could motivate a lot of people to do as well as they can in this survival mode. Overall, don't get it twisted, I know that even thinking about something like this when this game is potentially months away is absolutely insane. Trust me, I totally get it. But given what we know now, it was just really interesting to think about because I really can't imagine what the purpose is going to be in battling random trainers on the streets if we're not really going to get that much out of it, unless it's just for like training purposes, in which, sure, fine, whatever, but you could always do that in Pokemon games. That's nothing new. Otherwise, I'm sure we're going to have some form of post-game content. We just have no idea what it's going to be yet. But if it's any of these things, I would be a very, very happy camper. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about wraps it up for this one. This one was definitely more along the lines of like, oh, here's a couple of ideas I had. Let's just, you know, throw them to the wall, see what sticks. But I don't know, maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. Why don't you go ahead and tell me everything you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree? Could you see a potential issue in not really having online capabilities and things like that? So maybe you would want to see one of these things come to fruition so that we have something to look forward to when it comes to post-game, and we could make this game last a little bit longer before we end up getting our inevitable Gen 10 or Gen 5 remakes or whatever we get afterwards? Or am I off my rocker? These are absolutely asinine ideas. You want absolutely nothing to do with these, and you think there is something potentially better that we could get in terms of post-game. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!